drifting ship. I took a look inside. I found a note that someone wrote that said, take her for a ride. I set a course for sights unseen, went out to open sea. To my surprise, a bunch of sailors joined along with me. Now we're sailing on the mystery ship. All you gotta do is join our trip. There isn't any cost of membership. All the sailors here are really hip. I'm the captain of the mystery ship, and I'm a-calling all aboard our trip. I'm really hoping that you'll enjoy it up on the mystery ship. So bring a friend and come along with us aboard the mystery ship.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. I'm a little bit fascinated. Testing 1 2. Test 1 2. This is really mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing for me. You'll have to go back and listen to your playback. It was unlistenable on Sunday night. That is crazy. How does it sound now? I just dialed it way, way, way down. Testing 1 2. I'm looking at my VU meters. Here they are. I'm right where I should be. Man, I can't even hear myself in my earphones. What the heck is going on the mystery ship? It looks like just another Friday night. It's a mystery. It is a freaking mystery. Well, I'm happy to be here, my friends. I missed out on Wednesday night. It was a tremendously difficult time for me. I have, everybody knows what I do for a living. Hang on a second. Let me get back where I got. All right. They're saying it's 5x5 over there at Foxhole, so that makes me happy. Let me just make sure I'm live everywhere I'm supposed to be live. Okay, I am live at Rumble, and there are people there. Thank you, Rumblers, for saying hello over there. Good to see you. We are live at Pilled Foxhole. That is a beautiful thing. We are live at X. I'm loving it. I am loving it. We are live at YouTube, and there's folks hanging out at YouTube. Good to see you. Hope you're doing wonderfully. Q Magoo. All right. Beautiful. Let's check out old Twitch. Twitch appears to be, oh, for crying out loud. Why does it do this to me? Every now and then, Twitch decides to log out on me for no reason. It just does. But I'm live there. There's Maddie. He's here in another hospital bed, this time in rehab. He's blowing this popcorn down tomorrow. His stent sucked more than his last one, and this was shorter. He wants his own shower, his own bed, and a decent meal. Buddy, I hope you get it. I really hope you get it. one day away from blowing this pop stand. That's nothing but good news. Nothing but good news, my brother. All right, we are live. We are live. Stay back from the mic a bit. Is my mic too loud? Does it sound like I'm screaming in the mic? I'm listening to you, Zoot. This is crazy. I can dial the mic down. I can do that. I don't know what to say. I really don't. I've got gremlins. I've got gremlins in the mystery ship. Just another day at the circus. All right, anyway, it is a Friday night, and I'm happy to be here. I hope that you are doing wonderfully. Hope you are readying for Christmas like the rest of us. Tomorrow, my friends, there will not be a Saturday rock show. It is going to be on Sunday instead. And the reason is once a year here in the local Rogue Valley where I live, there is a thing called the Toy Run. It is a motorcycle run, and riders from all over the valley gather together. We typically have, depending on the weather, of course, there's a lot of fair weather riders out there, but typically we have somewhere between 500 and 1,000 riders each and every year, and we all gather at a wonderful little hang on the far end of the valley, the Tuville Lodge. And then after that, after hanging out and drinking coffee and eating some donuts and catching up with old friends and checking out everybody's newest motorcycles, we go 2 single file lanes, two guys, with a police escort at the front and the rear. And the police ride ahead, and they block off every lighted intersection so that we can continue unimpeded down this little, it's like a 4-mile trek. But we just keep it down around 25, 30, somewhere right in there. But cars park alongside of the road, people videotape us. It's really a big deal. We're on TV each and every year, and it is a great hang. Once we arrive at the other destination, which is the Elks Lodge in downtown Medford, you bring in a toy, and if you brought a toy for some underprivileged youth, you're allowed to go inside where there's free hot dogs. There's, the usual biker things, 50-50 raffle. There's silent bidding on all kinds of good stuff. They give away all kinds of great stuff. There's a rock and roll band for dancing, and of course, the suds will flow. So it's supposed to be a nice day tomorrow. It's not going to be terribly warm, but it's not going to rain. So let's just check the weather for tomorrow, shall we? Weather for tomorrow looks like 53 degrees with an overnight low of 39. That's pretty damn good. This past week, I think it was Tuesday, we got down to, I think it was 28. Had to scrape my windshield to get to work, so no complaints at 39 degrees. That's if I was Prairie Fire, I'd be dancing around in my underwear. That's when they go fishing back there. I hope everybody's doing good. I see Willie Fix-It out there. Willie Fix-It helped me out today. I have good news. I love it when I have good news to share. And I do have good news to share. For the last 2.5 years, I have a Bronco 2. You've seen it in photos. It's the one that has the Led Zeppelin license plate, Ramble On. Yeah. So I'm putting a brand new engine in it. Brand new. And I am going to ride off into the sunset, the happiest little camper you ever saw in your life. I know it's an oldie, it's a goodie, but so am I. An oldie but a goodie. So I'm tickled pink to get it running again. I've had to move some monies around to make it happen. I'm basically borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, but by the time it's all done, I get that thing up and running. I sell my Bronco. I will have paid off the money I grabbed out of my credit card, and yeah, it's all going to work out. Everybody's going to be happy, particularly me. Get rid of that Jeep, and I'll be the happiest dude you ever saw. Man. Pacific Northwest. It is no place for the timid. No place for the timid. Just ask Spudley. Probably raining. Is it raining up there, Spud? He said, it's so rainy here, the fish are scrambling for higher ground. I see that, like, come Tuesday, Wednesday, they say that we are getting one of those, what do they call it? I mean, they're coming up with all these new meteorological terms. An atmospheric waterfall, or whatever they're calling it, atmospheric, whatever the hell it is. What do they call it? Anyway, we're getting one of those. Crazy. It's crazy. I remember the days when the newsman said, tomorrow, rain. Tonight's forecast, dark. And continue dark until morning. Crazy Chuck, how's your world doing? Did I get the magic marker off the fender? Ah, yes. Ah, yes. Wow. Look at that. Look at that. That is a heck of a sticker, Sparky. Atmospheric river. That's what they're calling it. An atmospheric river. Boy. I can't wait. I can't wait. All right. There are people rumbling. There's people at Pilled. People at YouTube. I'm loving it. All right. I've got good things to tell you. And we're going to have a very interesting little show tonight. Really an unusual topic. But I love those, and I'm good at those. Trying to look for one of my more fun breaks. Let's do this one. Let's just do this one. That one's always good. It's always good. All right. We will see you on the other side of this little break. It's your chance to go take a leak, take the dog outside, do what you got to do. But we'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute respite while I run outside and have myself a gaping Zarge. See you in 2.
My fellow citizens, our country is in danger, but not to be despaired of. On you depend the fortunes of America. We, the Americans of today, are ready to act worthy of ourselves, ready to do what must be done to ensure happiness and liberty for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. We are a nation under God, and I believe God intended for us to be free. The crisis we're facing today, it does require, however, our best effort and our willingness to believe in ourselves and to believe in our capacity to perform great deeds, to believe that together, with God's help, we can and will resolve the problems which now confront us. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans.
That's about enough of that. Where is my cursor? Curses. Curses, my cursor. Oh, man. Those of you who have been hanging out with me for a while know that my Sunday nights have morphed over the years. I used to do interviews on Sunday nights, and there's nothing saying that I won't continue to do so at some point in the future if I find, I go through phases. That's how shows grow. They go through different phases, and for a while there, I talked to just about every last soul I know on D-Live and Pilled. Good friends, wonderful people. I was honored this past Tuesday night. I joined Sandra, my dear friend Sandra Jones, on her program, and we had like a 2.5-hour show. She's so easy to talk to. She's a wonderful and dear friend of mine whom I love more than anything in the world. I can't tell you. It was it was just two friends gabbing, having fun, and it was great. I need to tell you that due to certain changes in my life right now, I just have a whole lot on my plate, particularly right now, this very second. I have 13 working days to turn my job over, give them the keys, and wish them luck. Because of this, I have been working just some incredible hours, 13, 14-hour days, trying not to work the weekend. I get enough hours in Monday through Friday, but I have to bring home the bacon. So that's the part about my job that isn't much fun. Is the very end is always particularly hectic, a lot of stress, a lot of the thing that drives me crazy, and I've been sharing this with you guys the whole time I've been doing this project, bonehead mistakes. When people do stupid things like back a scissor lift into a wall that is completely finished, drywalled, painted, done, for all intents and purposes, that part of the building is finished, and a guy just happens to be driving down the hallway on a scissor lift and doesn't look what he's doing and backs into a wall. That kind of stuff is mind-blowingly stupid to me. And screaming and yelling doesn't fix it. and it doesn't make the guy feel any better. I don't mind it, honestly. I don't mind it if a guy comes and tells me, dude, you're going to kill me. I scuffed the wall. You know, some guy, the honest guys, the handful of honest guys that I have that actually do come and tell me when they take me and they show me what it is that they've messed up. Normally it is so it's so infinitesimal that it doesn't matter to me. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I mean, a little spit will take that off. The things that kill me are the big surprises, like a giant hole in the wall, and nobody knows. We have these beautiful 9-foot tall, 4-foot wide wooden doors. They are gorgeous. They have to be $1,500 a piece. And somebody backed a scissor lift into it, peeled the veneer off of it. There's no way to fix that. It's going to be there forever and ever. That stuff drives me to drink. And then the thing that kills me the most is the guys that come in, they do their work, they do a nice job, but they walk away and leave a giant mess. Like somebody's going to come along behind us and clean up after us. I walked into these guys today. I brought them a broom, a dustpan, and a vacuum. And I said, hey, I just got to tell you now, because looks like you're closing in on the end. And I know you guys are allergic to stuff like this, but I need you to clean this floor 100% like you were never, ever, ever in here. And I had to leave early today to go to the doctor. I had my 6-month checkup. And he was most impressed. I got flying colors. I have full mobility. I have no pain. And honestly, for having a completely rebuilt shoulder, I have no bitches. The only thing, the single solitary thing that I am unable to do, and he already knew it, was, guys, you know this. You know when you put on a pair of pants and then you thread your belt into the loops? So, although I can take my right hand and run it almost all the way back to my left hand butt cheek pocket, my left arm, it just doesn't go much further than right here. That's so you learn to live with stuff like that. Now I have to put my belt in the loops before I put my pants on. Stuff like that. But the pain that kept me awake at night for 5-6 years, just laying in bed with my shoulder going, dun, 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 dun. It's gone. It is gone. And man, I could kiss his feet. I'm so happy. So very, very happy. Can't believe it's been 6 months. June 11th. My sister-in-law, Paula's older sister that owns this house, she just had full knee replacement. And she's like 15, 16 years older than me. So I think 12 or 13 years older than me. But she's doing great. I mean, her surgery was 2 weeks ago. She's walking around, no cane, no nothing, no painkillers, walking around with a new knee. She's got a very impressive scar. I will give her that much. But, hey, doctors do amazing things these days. It is amazing. I somehow drifted away from the subject I wanted to talk to you about, which was myself and my friend Sandra. So although I had a lovely, lovely time with her on Tuesday night, I need to confess to you guys that with the craziness and zaniness going on in my life right now, I will be stepping back from my role as the host of the Foxhole Squares. They are going to find a new host, and one thing I know is that with Sandra at the helm, they're going to do wonderfully over there. It is a great show, and it has a lot to offer. It's most definitely different than any other Foxhole program. So I wish them continued success. I love Sandra to death. She knows that. I said, hey, I hope I can still come and stay on your couch next year. She's like, Zo, come on. So there's that. There is that. This coming Sunday night, last week during my Sunday night movie, I always play a great movie on Sunday nights. And I really thought that I was going to go towards like the Hitchcock side of things this Sunday, but hang on. I have some exciting news. This is one of my all-time favorite films. If you have not checked in with me for Zoso's Sunday Night Escape, each and every Sunday night, I bring you an A-list film. This past Sunday, what was it? This past Sunday, we had the Boondock Saints. In recent weeks, we had anything from Billy Jack to Cocoon to, I mean, really, really good movies. Really, really spectacular movies. I had Vanishing Point. We did some Monty Python. All kinds of great stuff. Young Frankenstein. This coming Sunday, though. This coming Sunday, I just got this yesterday. I wasn't expecting it till next week, so I was very excited. I do have an old film. It is from the 1940s, and is, as I said, this is one of my all-time, I'll guarantee top 10 favorite Zoso films. It's a war film. Gary Cooper in Sergeant York. Sergeant York. If you have not seen this movie, you will find it amazingly entertaining. They took a legitimate war hero from the First World War and made a Hollywood movie about him, and unfortunately, as Hollywood sometimes does, they embellished a little bit here and embellished a little bit there. But for the most part, it is a very, very entertaining, and he gives a tremendous performance. He plays just a good old boy from Tennessee. A good old boy from Tennessee who is a conscientious objector, doesn't really want to kill his fellow man or anything like that, and he gets thrust into the First World War. And you got to see it. If you have not seen Sergeant York, this coming Sunday night, folks, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, Gary Cooper, Sergeant York. Be there. Aloha. You will love this film. You will absolutely love this film. So, for tonight, I've got to tell you, me personally, I've shared this many a time with you. I'm not particularly proud of it, but, my walk with the Lord has been a bit of a zigzag. Although I was raised in private schools, went to church each and every Sunday. I was an altar boy. I was all those things. I got confirmed. I did all the sacraments that a good young Catholic boy should go. And then, of course, like most kids, once I hit like 18, 19, you kind of think you're too big for God. So I kind of put him on the back burner for the next 20 some odd years. And I will say, we had moments where I did cry out to him. Like I say, I zigged and I zagged. I am a walking exhibition. Everybody knows, that little plaque, like in your mom's bathroom or in the hallway of the, sometimes it's in the laundry room of people's houses. That there's a little saying, footprints. Footprints in the sand, and it shows two sets of footprints turning into one set of footprints. And it's a guy calling out to God saying, hey, you and I were walking along side by side, and it looks like at some point you walked away from me, and God says back to him, no, my son. When it got down to one set of footprints, that's when I was carrying you. I can tell you this, and I can tell you this honestly. God did a whole lot of carrying with your brother Zoe. There's no question. No question about it. When I was, I think I was around 51. I wasn't with anybody. Mrs. Zoe and I hadn't met yet. And I was a lost angel. That's what I was. I was a lost angel. I was so caught up in myself. I spent ridiculous amount of time. I was a successful general contractor. And this was like the very height of my awakening. So I spent a ridiculous amount of time on the internet studying and learning. When I learned about, all the stuff that us awakened folks learn about, the Federal Reserve and you talk about it, you name it. Man, I looked under that rock, how income tax was unfairly thrust upon us and all these different things. It's completely unconstitutional. It's actually voluntary if you look into it. The head of the IRS, two different heads of the IRS have admitted on video that paying your taxes is completely voluntary. Just try not paying them and see how voluntary it is. So I've studied all of that stuff. But my curiosity knows no bounds. I've studied everything from the moon and its phases to all of the crazy stuff out there in the world that makes you scratch your head because it just doesn't make sense, or it wasn't properly explained to us, or maybe, particularly of particular interest to me is history. Especially American history, but history in general. I am utterly convinced that there's a major hole. There's a major hole somewhere in the teaching of history as man knows it right now. It's going to take somebody wiser than me to figure out what exactly is going on, but there's some very, very interesting theories out there. But somewhere right around 50 years old, I was digging deep on, I'm sure it was YouTube. And I came across the first, now these are just all over the internet, everywhere, all over the internet. But it was a gentleman's near-death experience. And he shared that when he died, he went to hell. And this guy and I've actually played his video on this program before, several years ago. And this guy shared that, he was into all the things that I was into. Smoking dope, chasing women, rock and roll, just all the things that makes a guy tick. And I can't remember exactly what happened to him. I don't think he drowned. I can't remember exactly what his story was, but the part I remember vividly, was when he found himself, he woke up and he was in hell. And he had like zero religious background nothing to fall back on, nothing to. He found himself in just a brutal situation. And the way he described it, that he looked around him and he saw like famous people that he had at one time respected, and they were all of them were being horribly mistreated by demons. And I mean, these demons had these wicked claws, and they were just tearing at your flesh and ripping you open. And then he said that the pain was just unbearable, and they were all around him, just tearing the flesh off of his legs and scarring his chest. And then what happens is they no sooner do that, and you heal again immediately, just so that another demon could come by and scratch and gouge you again and inflict that horrible pain on you over and over and over again. And he was just beside himself. He's like, how the heck did I end up here? And he cried out for the first time ever in his life, something he heard as a youngster. He remembered the song, Jesus loves me, yes I know, for the Bible tells me so. That's the only thing he could remember. And he cried out to Jesus. And out of nowhere, this little speck of light appeared in the darkness. And it slowly got bigger and bigger and bigger until the point that it was so brilliant he couldn't even see. And he felt a pair of loving arms wrap around him and pluck him from his misery. And it was, in fact, Jesus that he met. And their conversation was kind of short and kind of sweet, but he was told that his time was not up, like so many of these near-death experiences. He was told that his time was not up, and that he was going to be given a second chance to come back and give it another go. And this man's testimony moved me so greatly, because the parallels between my life and his were so amazingly identical that I'll tell you, it really frightened the daylights out of me. Nothing. I like to say this. I like to say this all the time. I'm fearless, okay? I'm not afraid of anything. I'll walk a second story top plate, 3.5 inches wide. I'll take chances. I, jump from one rock to another rock with a 50-foot drop in between. I mean, stuff like that. Ride my motorcycle at incredible speeds, 120 down, in some aspects, I am fearless. And there's a word that I just never use. I never, ever use this word. And that word is terrifying, to be terrified. I've never uttered the sentence, I was terrified. I just think it's so overused and just ridiculous. But I will say that this man's testimony really put the fear of God into me. And from that day forward, I changed my tune. I no longer took my life for granted. I vastly improved my walk with the Lord. That single set of footsteps in the sand became 2 sets of steps again. We were walking side by side. Now, there's been several times, believe me, in the last 15, 16 years, that he's definitely held me up. There's a wonderful image of a young guy he's about 40 years old. He's got a big old wooden mallet and a chisel in his hand, and he has succumbed, and it shows the Lord behind him supporting him, and he's got a crown of thorns, and he's in brilliant white. Meanwhile, this carpenter is just, there's nothing left of him. And I used to love that photo. I love that image. I used to have it in the front door of my living room. Just you walked in my living room, boom, there it was. I'm going to have to find it again. But in the past 10 years or so, I have been very, very interested in people's near-death experiences, because there are some tremendous testimonies out there on video. One guy who was horribly, horribly burned and disfigured. He was a pilot, and he was living life on the edge, and he crashed his plane. He was given a second chance by the Lord. There's millions of stories. Our dear sister Leah Worth, somebody I really I consider a great friend, someone I'm dying to get her back on this show. I am. She came and shared her testimony here. She was in a coma and spent an extended amount of time in heaven, walking with Jesus. And the things that she shared on my show were incredible. Things like there are animals walking around in heaven that we don't have here on the earth. And her testimony is so uplifting and so enlightening. I've got to get her to come back. It's been like 4 years since she's been on. I'm working on her. She's got a lot on her plate right now, but I'll get her. We'll get her. The thing is, these NDEs, as we like to call them, they are now commonplace. There are dozens and dozens of channels devoted just to NDEs, near-death experiences. And I'm noticing a trend. I'm noticing a trend in these things. And the only thing I can say to you is that in my humble estimation, not that you should believe me, but there is kind of a new agey-ish feel to a great many of the near-death experience testimonies that you'll find on YouTube, on Rumble, on all the platforms, BitChute. I've watched them all over the place. YouTube, of course, has the most extraordinary library of them. I was watching one the other night, and it was a guy who was sharing. Now, this is recent enough where I ought to remember how he died. How did this guy die? It's a standard story where the guy, is out of his body. He's sitting there looking at this body. I think he was in a car crash. He was slumped over the wheel or something. And he's standing there in the dark, and he can look. Oh, yeah. I remember his story now. Yeah. He owned a truck. And he sat there standing not too far from his truck, and he was angered because he looked over and he saw some guy in his truck, and he tried to get closer to it, but for some reason he just couldn't maneuver that way, and so he looked harder, and then of course he realizes it is himself slumped over the wheel. And away he goes. Now, I have to tell you, a great many of the NDEs, if you go and watch these things on YouTube, there's a lot of similar stories in that wherever somebody goes, there's a white light. And as they get closer and closer to the white light, they realize that this is where you want to go. This is the good place. This is where, light versus darkness. What are you going to go to? You're going to go to the light, right? So many of the stories are similar in that aspect that they find the white light, they find Jesus, he shows them around. But as of late, a great many of the NDEs that I have watched or started to watch and then turned away from them because I love a good old-fashioned NDE. I love one where a guy has the absolute wits scared out of him by going to hell and gets that second chance from our Lord and Savior. Those are the good ones to me. All right. Those are the ones that reinforce my thinking. Those are the ones that make me feel like I'm on the right path. Those are the ones that make me really, really think about what I'm doing with my life down here. But a lot of the NDEs now will tell you stories. There are stories. This guy had a story about he gets to this incredible beautiful marble building, and there's a series of tables, and this building is so big. It's so big he can't even see the end of it, and the marble columns are they're only 6 feet apart, but they're magnificently huge, like 50, 60, 70 feet tall, and there's gazillions of them, and everything is the most beautiful, polished marble and stone and incredible buildings. And then they say that in between the buildings are, beautiful flowing crystal rivers and the greenest grass you've ever seen. And the one thing that everybody does seem to comment on, and this is in the good NDEs and the bad NDEs, is that your sight, your senses, our senses down here on this planet are extremely limited. When you get to heaven, your eyes can see colors that you have never imagined before. Leah affirmed this with her testimony. And even the smells that you can smell and the sights that you see are just breathtakingly incredible, as you would expect that heaven would be. But I've come across a number of testimonials where the person dies and they go to this other place and they don't have any story about meeting Jesus in person. They talk about meeting spirit guides, and when you get to heaven, your spirit guide will meet you at the door, and of course he takes you and you meet all of your immediate family that has gone on before you, and how everyone that you knew and loved, from your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, if you ever met them, they're all there to greet you. The family dog that you remember, all of these feel-good stories that make you feel so good about passing on to the other side, and it's all, wine and roses. I mean, these stories, they sound wonderful. They sound extraordinary, like, I want to die tomorrow. I'm not afraid to die anymore because I'm going to go to this warm and fuzzy place And they're going to show you, you watch a little movie of the history of your life and all the same old stories. You know that those of you who have any kind of religious upbringing, I'm sure you recall or have been told somewhere along the line that Satan is the father of all lies. And he exists for one reason, and one reason alone. And that reason is to steal your soul. And he will tell lie after lie after lie to get you to fall into his clutches. Now, I have never had a near-death experience. I've never died and gone to heaven. I can only imagine what that must be like. I know for a fact that I have done some shamefully wicked things in my life, and I have asked for God's forgiveness for these things. And in spite of the fact that I know Christ died for my sins, I know that I am forgiven, I know that I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and walk hand in hand with him, but as long as I'm flesh and blood in this meat suit, I do stand, having free will. There is a chance that I might stumble and fall in my path, doing something that I probably know I shouldn't be doing. I've done it, I can't tell you how many freaking times. I was particularly turned off by this recent NDE I was telling you about, because the guy, he just so casually, they said that I had a choice, and if I went beyond this one barrier, I wouldn't be able to ever come back. And but if I wanted to, I could go back. And the whole idea is, the guy told a story like this. This is the story the guy told. This is what really bothered me. Personally, I don't believe a word of it. But the guy's story went something like this. When you pass away, and it really bothers me when people refer to our life here on earth as a realm, okay? A realm? Really? I don't believe that we live in a realm. I'm sorry, I do not. In fact, that word really bugs the shit out of me. I'll be blatantly honest with you. Whenever somebody refers to our life, our experience here right now, as being in a realm, they pretty much lost me. But this guy's story was that he went and he met with his spirit guide, and they sat down, and they went from building to building to building to building, and he learned that what we are is a soul, and our soul can come and go as it wishes, and we can come to the earth, we can choose to go to a different life on some other planet, and that there are all these different experiences that you can have. You can go live a life on some other planet with their customs and and what he said is, of all of the realms, Earth, life here on Earth is the most difficult and challenging one. That's the one that very, very few souls decide to to try to live here. And this is when I knew that I just wasn't buying what this guy was laying down. It just didn't seem right to me. And the story, he went on to say that before you go what kind of a life you're going to have. And he said when he got back to heaven this time, or what he called heaven, although he never talked about meeting God the Father, he never talked about meeting Jesus, he talked about meeting his spirit guide on the other side. And his spirit guide showed him that like 500 years ago, he had been a shoemaker in a little tiny village somewhere. And then prior to that, he was a farmer of some kind. He worked with agriculture and growing crops, and he was digging with a pickaxe or something like that. And he realized that once he got back to that, what he called heaven, that he realized that he had lived a number of different lives. I remember the first time I heard Shirley MacLaine say that on some television interview show. It was about 1970. She says, "Oh, in one of my past lives, I was a soldier in the Civil War," or something. I don't know what it was, but I'm thinking, just like Bill Cosby talking to Noah talking to God. Yeah, right. I mean, and I have no idea. I have no idea what to tell you. I have no proof. I can't prove or disprove any of that past life stuff. I don't know. I will tell you, and I have shared this on here before, that I have had some very, very disturbing dreams wherein they seemed so very real to me that I woke up in a cold sweat. I had a dream that I bludgeoned a man to death with a shovel and then buried him so that he would never be found. And a particularly disturbing dream for me. I mean, I don't dream that kind of stuff. And it made me wonder, could I have done something like that in a prior life? Why did that dream seem so vividly real to me? It really kind of freaked me out. All I can say is I was so very glad to wake up from that dream and, oh my God, I'm just laying here in bed. Oh my God, I didn't bludgeon anybody at all with a shovel. I mean, it was just that kind of freaky. That kind of freaky. This past week, I did come across. Did I watch Blazing Saddles before that? This past week, I did, in fact, come across a man sharing his near-death experience. This man was a devout Christian. He had been a preacher. He had been a sheriff. And after finding him and finding that particular NDE, I looked for more of his interviews, and I found him from across the board. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of interviews with him, mostly from the 1970s. The old grainy had been transferred from VHS and transferred again and transferred again. I want to see if I can find one of these for you, because He had one particular interview that really made me sit back and say, okay, I know what you're talking about, and I can get behind this. All right, I'm right here. The gentleman's name, and let me know in the chat. I want you guys to let me know in the chat. I'm about to go full something on Zoso, dude. Don't know if he's reading the chat, but this will be a wow moment. Hang on. Fire legs, you should see my arm. I got in a fight with my nightgown and about to go full circle on Zoso. Dude. Don't know if he's reading the chat, but this will be a wow moment. I am attempting to read the chat, Rick. When you have 5 different chats all going on at the same time, it's a little tough to read them all. But yes. This is what I want to share. This is what I want to share with you. I want you to get a load of this man's testimony. It's fairly short, so I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of. I'm going to get to the meat of the matter. I am going to get to the meat of the matter. This guy, his name is Howard Pittman. Has anyone heard of Howard Pittman? Have you ever heard that name? Howard Pittman. Really, really an amazing guy. Zoso said earlier that he feared God. I never have. No, I'm not afraid of God. I said I was God-fearing. In other words, I respect God. God-fearing doesn't mean you're afraid of God. It just means, Anyway. Yes. Mav Angel says, I have never had a near-death experience. However, my grandmother was born with a gift. She was psychic. I saw and learned a lot from her. And I'll tell you what, that's another thing that I have been studying. And it's fascinating. There are people who are seers. And I'm talking about believers, okay? I'm talking about people who are believers. Sometimes God grants certain people visions. And I believe that they are gifts. I believe that they are spiritual gifts. These people have some kind of built-in intuitions, or whatever you want to call it. They can foretell when something is going to happen. I just watched about an hour-long show of a young man. He couldn't have been 25, 26. But I will tell you this. The man was on fire for the Lord. And there was a reason he was on fire for the Lord, is because of what he had seen, what God allowed him to visualize. And, who says that that's not possible? I really do want to share with you this interview with this Bill Pittman, because what he shares, and I'll apologize now, he's old, okay? He's really, really old. It's kind of hard to hear. Maybe I should turn on the closed captions, but I think you can understand it. Let's just watch this together, and then we'll come back and talk about it, because this guy, thank God I came across this man's near-death experience, because what it did is it made me realize that there's a lot of fake ones out there. There's a lot of people giving misleading, and I believe that they are on purpose. I honestly, firmly believe that Satan is hard at work making us want to believe that you'll still go to heaven as long as you are a good person. I was a good person. Are you religious? No, but I'm spiritual. I'm sorry. Being spiritual is not going to keep you from the clutches of hell. And if you thought, if any of you, no, that's my own, I'll save that for after this video. I want you to watch this video with me. It's short and sweet. This is a gentleman by the name of Bill Pittman, and he talks about when he died. He had a very unusual thing happen to him. One of his blood vessels ruptured in his back. He had some kind of anomaly, and one of his blood vessels ruptured. So he was bleeding internally, but had no idea that he was bleeding internally. He just kept getting more lightheaded and weaker and couldn't quite put his finger on what was wrong with him. And the next thing you know, he was in heaven. But he did come back to tell us about it. Let's watch this together, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. All right. Pull that full screen. Turn up the volume.
Riveting things. I could say a lot more, but I want to have you be able to get right into the video, and I trust that it'll be a blessing to you.
Okay, Brother Howard, I thought if we could just start from the beginning, and you had an encounter where something physically happened. Could you share that story with us?
Yeah, this was on August 3rd, 1979. I was involved at that time in a political campaign. I was running for sheriff, office of criminal sheriff. And there was about 7 of us in the race. The primary election was going to be held on August 7th, 1979. And on the first day of August, we took a little unofficial poll. According to that poll, I was one of the leading candidates that was going to be involved in that. And there was one particular bank in the community that was very important in politics. And Ida Deese that worked in that bank, and she made an appointment for me with the president and some of the members of the board of directors trying to solicit their support for my campaign. And I went down that morning. I got up. I wasn't sick, wasn't different from any other morning. I was slightly nauseated because of sinus problems. I've had sinus problems for years, and this is sinus country. Here, it's what they call the pine belt. And the doctor said there's no allergy like pine allergy, you know. So anyway, I skipped breakfast and went to town to keep my appointment. And when I arrived at the bank, my niece, who worked in the bank, looked out through the plate glass window. She saw me coming. I got out of my car and went across the street, and she got up from her desk and came to the door to greet me. With one hand, she opened the door, and others reached out to greet me. As I stepped in the door, I dropped to my knees, and she grabbed me. "What's the matter?" I said, "I don't know. All of a sudden, I just lost my strength. Something's wrong with me. I'll cancel my appointment. I'm going back home." I turned around, went back to my car, and sat down. That's when the pain hit me. Like a mule, it'd kick me in the midsection and consume my entire body. So all I could think of was go home, go home. I was within a mile of the hospital, but I didn't go to the hospital. Instead, I started up my car and I started home. About halfway, I live 11 miles from the bank then. About halfway home, I suddenly stopped breathing. I felt as though my clothes were literally smothering me to death. I braked my car right in a stop in the middle of a busy highway. And I felt that my clothes were smothering me. And I started just trying to tear out of them. And somehow, I don't know how, but somehow I realized I had panicked. And when I forcefully calmed myself down, I could breathe. With difficulty, but I could breathe. And I knew I was growing weaker because I was hemorrhaging massively. I was able to start my car, and I made it the rest of the way home. When I got there, no one was home. Wife was going somewhere. The kids was all going to school. But I struggled to get out of the car. Everything's kind of hazy about how long it took me to get out of the car. I just can't. But anyway, I made it in the house and fell on the floor right inside. I hadn't been there very long till she came in. My wife came in. One look, she recognized the gravity situation. She got me up, back out into the car, and rushed me into the town, to the very town I just came from, right up in the family clinic. And just as she parked, one of the doctors pulled in his parked right in front of us. Well, she ran around, opened the door, and tried to pull me out of the car. By that time, I was so weak I couldn't even lift my hand. I'd lost so much blood. And when she pulled on me, I literally fell out of my car on my face. And the doctor stepped out of his car. He saw this. He rushed over to give aid. One look, he knew I was already in shock. Now, they didn't know what had happened to me because I was in shock, but he knew that I was in shock. Later on, they told me what had happened. There is a main artery that runs across the back of the stomach. An ulcer had formed on that artery. Well, they called it silent because it gave me no symptoms. And it had slowly eaten away the wall of that artery until it ballooned out. They call that aneurysm. It just kept on ballooning out till it reached a place that the wall was so thin. The day I stepped in the hospital, in the bank door, it had reached a place the wall was so thin it couldn't withstand the breast pressure, the heartbeat. It just popped like you popped a balloon. And that was the massive hemorrhage. Well, they called an ambulance. They rushed me from the local hospital, from the local clinic, family clinic, to the local hospital. They kept me there overnight. The next morning, 3 times during the night, they brought me out of shock. The next morning, my doctor come in and said, "We got to move you. We got to have more equipment. We got to have more skilled technicians. We got to have them in a hurry. So we're going to send you to the Regional Medical Center at Macomb, Mississippi." They put me in an ambulance, hooked me up to all that machinery, allowed my wife to go with us, assigned a paramedic to attend to me, and we took off post-haste. 19 miles before we reached that hospital, I lost consciousness. I passed into a world of darkness. It was so dark that there's no words in the human language to describe crossing the veil. But I passed out in this darkness. I really felt abandoned, all alone. First time I'd ever experienced that kind of darkness. There was no light. And then all of a sudden I saw something that come right out of the top of that darkness. And it was like a tape that was just twirling around like this as it come down. You ever seen those Confederate parades in New York where they throw that confetti out the window and just twirls down? That's what the thing looked like, a single one. And it came, and I watched it. It came all the way down right in front of me. I can't tell you how I saw it because I saw it with no light. No light at all. It's total darkness. But I saw this thing, just like this tape. It comes right in front of my eyes and turns just like that 3 times. And every time it turned, I'm reading it. It's a verse of Scripture, Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27. It is appointed unto all men once to die, after this the judgment. It is appointed unto all men once to die after judgment. 3 times that thing turned. And 3 times I read it. When I realized then, this was God's way of supernaturally revealing to me that I had met my appointed time to die. We all know we got to die. But being human, we've dealt with that. We dealt with it in our subconscious. Actually, in reality, we look at death, physical death, as something that happens to others. It don't happen to others. We just put it out of our mind and keep going. If it didn't, it'd drive us crazy. We just put it out of our mind and keep going. But when you come to the realization that It's not others. It's you. It takes on a whole new perspective then. I didn't want to die. I left home to win an election, not to die. To die would be total defeat. So I prayed a very short and pointed prayer. I asked God to extend my life. I was familiar with the fact that he has a precedent in his word for extending life. Of course, he extended Hezekiah's life for 15 years. And I knew that. So I asked him to extend my physical life. And then that's when I had the first ever supernatural encounter. Out of that vast darkness come the most beautiful voice I've ever heard in my life. There's no music created that would any way mimic the beauty of that sounding of that voice. As the voice spoke to me, the voice said to me, stop. No more pain. Peace, rest, security, all that you've ever wanted, just don't breathe. I'm breathing by willpower at that point. Every breath just took all the strength I could get in, and when I got in the area, it took all the strength I had to get it out. I'm breathing by willpower. And he's telling me, stop, don't breathe. And my spirit was saying to me, listen, God's speaking. God speaking, said, don't breathe. And then I got to try to shut it down, what I'm doing. And then the realization hit me as though I screamed as loud as I could in my spirit. No, what am I doing? I just asked God to extend my life. Don't breathe, I'm going to die. You are not God. With that exclamation, Satan fled from me.
So this voice, you had just asked the Lord to spare your life, and a beautiful voice said, just let go.
Yeah, but look what he said. Listen, you see, just what he said tells what I'd been taught on my security. Security. That's what Baptists teach. Once you save forever, no matter what. That's what they teach. Security. And he used that on me right away. The first thing he used, security, peace, rest. All you've ever wanted, just stop breathing. There, in the valley of death, at the door, he lied to me. He told me he was God. He couldn't kill me. He had to get me to kill myself. You better know the Spirit that speaks to you. We're all going to come to that same place. I call it the veil. The veil is not in this world, and it's not in the other world. It's the door between the two. We all got to go that way. Christians refer to it as crossing Jordan. It's when we pass from this life to the life to come. Once you cross that veil, flesh and blood can't cross it. It can't cross it. So that's when the angels took my spirit out of my body. And we went from darkness to light, just like that. Out of darkness into light. I'd crossed the veil. I was on the other side. The first thing they brought me to see was a verse of Scripture being acted out like a stage play. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, against principalities, word plural, powers, word plural, rulers of the darkness of the world, the menagerie of our enemy. There was this, looked like a long table with all these beings sitting around. The devil himself sits at the end. And all these spirits are princes that operate the principalities of the dark world. That's where the warfare plans for spiritual war is actually designed and planned. Satan does nothing without plan. He plans everything. Everything is planned. It's right down to the... So, let me show you how it works. Every one of those people, spirits sitting at that table, had a principality. He has divided the world into principalities, territories. Over these territories, he puts a prince. Each prince is given as many demon spirits as he needs to carry out his plan for that principality. You take some continents might be one principality because there's no threat to the kingdom of darkness. Where there's no threat, no major threat to the kingdom of darkness, one prince could handle a whole continent, let's say. But America is many principalities. There's many threats. Even down to an individual could be a principality, depending on what the threat is. But this is how that thing works. As I watched it, they let me see part of a plan that really shook me up because I knew about the plan. I call it a skeleton. It was just an outline. And it was the same identical outline that John was able to see, and he wrote about it in Revelation chapter 13, beginning at verse 7 through 9. And this really shook me up. Revelation, let me get to it. I want to read that. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of the life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Revelation 13, 7 through 9. The master plan to capture the world, to capture the church. That's why we've got cotton candy religion today. What is cotton candy religion? Hot air. Doctrines of demons, Paul called. Doctrines of demons are being expounded from the pulpits of so many churches today. He's captured the church, what he said he was going to do. And he's done it. He's already got it. When they brought me, first, they let me see this guy. That's the first thing I saw was this outline. They let me see that. So John the Baptist wrote about it because I was very weak on spiritual warfare. I'm Southern Baptist. You know, we didn't have too much teaching in that area. Then, in fact, I'd never heard but one sermon in my entire life that ever mentioned the devil. And that was when I was 12 years old, and it scared the devil out of me. So that's when I first came to the church, you see. And then no more. Even in the seminary, he was never mentioned. Didn't mention the devil, didn't mention the demons or anything. It was the ministry of the children that first opened my eyes as we brought these children into our home. Most of them had been used, misused, abused. For instance, the last child they brought into our home, state rescued her that day. She was locked up in a cage with a cat. She's only 18 months old, this little girl. And the only thing that they said that she'd had to eat for that solid week was the droppings of that cat. And that demon-possessed individual that had that little girl got his jollies off by putting his lighted cigarettes out on the bottom of her feet. You ought to have seen her feet. You see, this is not human. Something beyond humanity had to do that. This is not human. And it was those children, how they had been abused, misused, neglected, and all of them was crying for help. And they came to my house expecting me to help them, and I was the least prepared person in the world. I had no training in spiritual war at all. I didn't even know. But as I looked at them, I knew that there was a force out there far greater than I knew about. And that's the first thing God took me to see. He educated me quickly. He showed me how this is done by design, how spiritual war is done, and how they operate on two emotions in that world, hate and fear. They hate all humans and they fear their boss. There's no love in that at all. And that's why he has enforcing the rules of the satanic world. It is a world without love. There's no love at all there. It is operated by fear and hate. They hate all humans and they fear their boss. They fear him. Now, people don't pay any attention to this. But Satan, show you how devious he is, took 1/3 of the angels of heaven with him in his rebellion. What did that tell you? When you think about this, there's no dummies in the angel corps. And yet he deceived 1/3 of the angels. How did he do it? This tells about his ability. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4 says he's the God of this world. That word God is not a name. It's a title. It's translated from the Greek word theos, from which we get our word theology. The definition of English in English is divine, ruling, magistrate, high potentate. Think about that. That's his title. Divine means set apart, put above. Ruling magistrate. Who is a ruling magistrate? One that has authority by law to control the conduct of those under his jurisdiction. That's why Satan says 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 25, verse 26, he can take any lost person at will. He's a divine ruling magistrate. Not long ago, I had a lawyer call me from New York. He says, I have a man up here charged with murder. He's got a copy of your book, Demons Eyewitness Account. It says in there, the devil can make people do what he wants. He wants you to come up here and testify that the devil made him do it. I said, well, if you send me a subpoena, I'll come up here and testify what the Bible says. Just what I wrote is what it says. He says, okay. 2 weeks later, he called me back. He said, I'll get the subpoena. 2 weeks later, he called me back and said, the judge, get out of here, man. I ain't opening that can of worms in this court. So, but he let me see the God of this world at work. And he is a God. All them people out there are serving him and they don't know it. They don't know it. The strongest one are his princes. They're at the top. They're from the giant warring order of demons. They were actually angels who fell with him. And angels are, they got some angels that look like animals, some that looks like birds. They're all described in the Bible. And they got the guardian angel looks just like a human being. And this is why Revelation says, Hebrews says, when you deal with strangers, be careful. Many times you deal with angels unaware.
Now, Brother Howard, you good works. You took in abused children. You were a police officer. You served. But something happened where he said your works weren't acceptable to him.
Yes. He says, well, when I stood before him to plead my case, see, the angels brought me there to plead my case. Because all the time I kept asking him, is he going to let me live? I knew that my spirit had crossed the veil. Flesh and blood can't go there. And I knew the only way I could come back, God would have to permit it. And I kept asking the angels every time. I still, no matter what I saw, I still was in love with this old piece of clay. And so they brought me there and let me plead. Brought me to the gate. They wouldn't let me. I didn't go in. I came to the gates of the third heaven, and they told me I watched 50 saints being permitted to enter the gates of heaven, but they didn't let me go in. They said they stopped me. The angel stopped me there and says, "Well, I got to the gate, and he says, if you go in, you can't come out. You got to stay till he brings you back." I said, "If I can't come out, then that means my physical life is over. And you told me I could ask him." Angel said, "You can ask him, but you stand outside this gate and ask him." And so I did. I came and I was allowed to plead my case. So and I was pleading to a God I couldn't see, but I knew it was total silence while I pled my case. I was telling him I reminded him of all my good works. I told him about all the things that I'd done, all the things that's what I was basing on my good work. I told him about all of that. And when he was never said a word till I finished. When I finished, then he answered me in a voice that sounded like thunder. Wasn't anything like the voice that Satan had used on him. He says, he started, I'm going to try to quote verbatim exactly what he says. Your faith is dead. Your works are in vain. The life that you lived and offered to me as a life of Christian service is an abomination that I rejected in the Pharisee. What made you think I would accept it from a Laodicean type Christian? In fact, untold millions are living the same kind of life that you lived, and they stand in danger of my everlasting wrath. Unquote, the living God. I couldn't believe he was talking to me. I'm a preacher. I'm a teacher. I just told him about all my good works, what I'd done, you know. And I said, no, Lord, don't you, wait, you don't understand. He said, you didn't do those works for me. You did them for a false God. I said, Lord, I worked for you. I called you Lord every day. Yes, you did, but you never made me Lord. What a difference. To call him Lord gives him a title. To make him Lord promotes him to ruler of life. Who is your Lord? But Lord, I was serving you. No, you wasn't. You served a false God. Then he named him. Satan's number one selling false God. S-E-L-F. Instantly. I knew everything he said was true. Had he reached down and picked me up and dropped me in hell, I would have said amen. But I couldn't move. I'm laying on my face, in the spirit. I couldn't move. I couldn't move. They came and angels came and took me away. They took me out and let me regain my composure and brought me back and let me plead the second time. Second time, I never opened my mouth. Then he began to talk to me in a compassionate tone. As he said to me, suddenly I realized, this is my Father, and I heard him. He was hurting for me. The God that created all of this was hurting for me. The smallest insignificant piece of flesh that he had, he was hurting for me. Nothing mattered now. I didn't ask him for my life. I didn't ask him for anything else. But when this life meant nothing, he gave it back. Sent me back to do what I'd done. Give me a 5-point message for the church and placed 2 restrictions on me. Restriction 1 was that I was not to ask anybody to hear this because he was sending me to his church. I didn't know what was his church, but he knew which one was his church. He was sending me to his church. All I had to do was go wherever I'm asked. When I get an invitation, put it down. Get to it when I can. And if I'm not supposed to go there, he'd close the door. But if he opened the door, no man would close it. And that's the way it's been ever since. The 5-point message he gave me, the point 1, this is, number 1 point, this is the Laodicean church age in which we live today. This is the Laodicean church age, where the overwhelming majority of so-called Christians are just that, so-called. They're mouth professors and not heart possessors. And unless they wake up, he's going to spew them out of his mouth. He promised to do that, you see. But he gave them a chance. In his word, he gave them a chance. If they wake up. Point number 2, your adversary is a personal and powerful adversary, Satan the devil. He is anointed. Point number 3, if you ever expect to have any of God's power manifest in your life, you're going to have to live the life. Not talk it, you got to walk it. And point number 4, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. What he's saying there, keep your eye on the eastern sky because your redemption draweth nigh, because we have reached the days of Noah once again. And we look in history and in the Bible to see how it was in the days of Noah. And we see that mankind had but 2 priorities, wealth and pleasure, wealth and pleasure, wealth and pleasure. Everything else is secondary. That's where it was in the days of Noah. And he said it was going to be that day, that way again. And we have reached that stage. Point number 5. Now this is one that really, the main one, the one that he sent me back for. And a lot of people can't comprehend this. What he said was, let me go back to Matthew. Matthew, in writing, was quoting John the Baptist when he said this in chapter 3, verse 11 and 12. He said, I indeed baptize you with water unto repentance, but he that cometh after me is mightier than I, whose shoes I am not worthy to bear. He shall baptize you with Holy Ghost and with fire, whose fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. The baptism of the Holy Ghost, so to speak, is going to come with fire. He's going to burn up the chaff in the Christian. So a lot of people think that the baptism of the Holy Spirit is evidence speaking in tongues. Well, it might be, but by the same token, the real evidence is the fire burning the chaff out of the individual. And that's.
I'm going to stop it right there. This gentleman his name is Howard Pittman. He was really a remarkable man. This is very much at the end of his life. He passed away in 2019. He wrote a number of books, but one of the most amazing books he wrote describes Satan's extraordinary powers here on the earth and how easy it is for Satan to blindside us and lead us astray. Like he said, when he first died, he asked God, give me another chance. Let me go back and live. And Satan, in this beautiful, beautiful voice, said, no, man, just quit breathing. Just let go. Just let yourself go. You'll have all the security and calm and peace that you want. He was trying to fool the man into dying right there so he could claim his soul. And then this man, who was a preacher and a sheriff, a teacher, a good man, got to speak with God Almighty. And as he said, when he heard God's voice, it sounded like thunder. Big difference. Big difference. This man's testimony is completely at odds with the NDEs that I have seen over the course of the last 6 months, year. It's a fascinating topic for me. I'm encouraged by a great many people who have died and for whatever reason have come back against all odds. People who were not breathing. And if your brain goes without oxygen for, I don't know, it's a very short period of time. It's like 8 to 12 minutes or something. The odds of you coming back and being normal and not being a vegetable are like infinitesimal. But there are many stories. You guys remember the woman that I had on my program who got run over by the boat and ended up losing her leg? She basically bled out in the water and for all intents and purposes should have died, but God brought her back. And she was, her stories were incredible. She told the story about how she got a flat tire on the side of the road out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, no cars anywhere. And she tried to change her own tire and realized she didn't have a tire iron. And out of nowhere, a car showed up and a guy walks up with a tire. Were you looking for one of these? And the guy changed the tire for her, and about the time she, closed her trunk after the tire was changed and turned around to thank him, the guy and the car were gone. I mean, her stories were amazing. And I love stuff I'm fascinated by stuff like that. Mrs. Spud shared a story about being in an ambulance and having someone alongside. There's many, many, many stories of people being visited just before they pass or just before they pass over to the other side by entities, loving entities that are there to help us. But make no mistake, folks, seriously, as he said, for we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities. And baby, they're out to get us. And I agree wholeheartedly with what he said, is that as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be when the Son of Man returns. And my goodness, it sure seems like we're right there. If you look around the world at all of the crap that is going on, every bit of news that we get from the internet, everything is one horrific story after the next. I mean, it almost seems like we're living in a godless world. But fear not, because he is there with us. It makes me question myself. Makes me want to. I realize I've got to strive harder. If God turned away a pastor and a preacher who was helping little children and doing stuff like that, what's he going to say to me when I get there? The scariest thing, the only thing in this world that I am terrified of, is to make my way to the gates of heaven and have God say to me, "Get away from me, I never knew you." That is the only thing in this world that I am terrified of. And the next time you're wandering around the internet and you come across somebody's near-death experience, all I'm going to say to you is be very leery of the people who lead you to believe that all you had to be is a good person. I believe firmly that it's a lot more than that. I care about each and every one of you and where we all end up. I certainly, personally, don't want to end up on the wrong side of the tracks. That's a fact. I'm happy to share with you that in the course of the last week, I am in the process of repairing my relationship with my daughters. I've spoken with both of them, and I'm going to continue to work on that, using work as an excuse. It's so easy to say, God, I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy. God put me here to be a leader for my two daughters. And I realized that, man, I've been doing a lousy job. I need to step it up. This is one of the reasons why I had to back away, at least for now, from the hosting duties that I just taken on too much. I need to make time for myself, and I need to steer my ship in the right direction, folks. This gentleman right here, Howard Pittman is his name. He's got some great videos. Really, really interesting stuff. There are people out there who, there are some incredible NDE stories out there. And boy, the amazing ones are the ones of the people who say they've seen hell. And that, boy, hell does not sound like the place that I want to visit, not even for 5 minutes. Anyway, just want to let you know, you will not see me until Sunday morning. Sunday morning, I'm going to come back with my rock and roll show. I'm taking all of tomorrow off. Tomorrow is the annual toy run. Mrs. Zoe and I are jumping on my motorcycle, and we are going for a ride. We're going to donate toys to the underprivileged and hang out with some of our motorcycle friends and have a great time. And as I had mentioned earlier, I'm not going to be part of the Foxhole Squares, but I'm sure that they're going to do well, and I'll be tuning in to watch. So anyway, I hope all of you have a great, great weekend. Look for me Sunday morning for a music program, and then, of course, this Sunday night, I've got a humdinger for you. Gary Cooper in a fabulous film called Sergeant York. That will start at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. It's a great way to finish off your weekend. If you haven't seen this movie, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. He is so good in this. So good in this. Thank you to the wonderful people who donated to this show tonight. I'm going to release the scratching over there. You guys are amazing. And I saw some lemons popping in. Let me see if I can get to this treasure chest and put a little something in there. Put a little something in there. There we go. There we go. And we'll release the treasure chest. It is now on its way to you as we speak. A mere 17 seconds away. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you're getting an early jump on your Christmas presents. Lord knows I need to. I haven't done a one yet, but I will. Willie Fix-It hauling in the gold pills over there. I better jump in and grab a little something for myself. Bad Zoot. Nicely done, Lynn Winters. Way to go, darling. Very good. Good for you. Good for you. All right. Zoso is checking out. We will see you all on the flip side, my friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Howard Pittman. Look him up. Look up some of his interviews. Fascinating guy. Fascinating guy. Be good, everybody. We'll see you on the flip side.